Hey guys, John here. Today we're in Avenger 2, and today we're going to be making that 8-bit chiptune lead sound that also doubles up as a sound effect depending on how we play it. So with that being said, we're going to be playing the backing drums from the 8-bit era expansion, and the drum set is actually going to be this ESYS resynth with the same sequence as well, which sounds something kind of like this. And yes, there's reverb on the snare, don't judge me. Okay, we're going to go for this init preset here, and just initialize it just in case. And we're going to start from scratch. From a scratch saw wave. So the first thing that we need to do for these types of sound is go to a square wave and pitch this up about 2 octaves. So you have something just beautiful and square like that, but it's a little too clean. So we're going to use some FM here to kind of bring back that authenticity that reminds us of a better time. So let's go to this plus here. The second oscillator is going to be a sine wave, and let's drop this down 1 octave, go back to the first one, and down here on the FM category where it says sine, let's click this here and then change it to Osc 2 FM, and the harmonic we can go to free. Now with this here, a tiny bit makes a huge difference, so maybe no more than 3 or 4% is even pushing it, and you'll see what I mean here. So we just want that kind of sound. Okay, so next from here, now we can kind of sculpt this a little bit more. So one thing I always like controlling in a sound like this is going to be the duty cycle, which is going to be this here. Now we can just leave it here, but it might be kind of nice to have this on a macro, so we can grab our first macro, drag and drop this here, and then maybe just do 100%, that's kind of fine, and label this as duty. There we go. So depending on where the knob is, we can have our duty cycle in the right spot. Okay, enough of those stupid jokes. For now. Next, we're going to go to this knob here, and where it says bits, we can always change this to both, which is kind of a cool effect for a sound like this. Also, we can go down below here to sync and just add a little bit of this here, and it kind of just gives a slight little flavor, like we're adding a dash of paprika to some type of dish. Okay, so next thing, and actually, you know what? We're going to tackle the amp here because these sounds didn't really sustain like that forever, so we can bring down the sustain and kind of dial in the decay how we want to, and let's first engage our first ARP here. Okay, that might be cool for now. We can come back and adjust this later once we start building this a little bit more. So basically we have this. So it's okay, but there's still a couple of things that we still need to do. Now you can add some noise and do some reduction if you'd like to. That's another possibility. But what I'm going to do next is go to the effects here, and then we're going to add an EQ, and then followed by a compressor here. Bring this up just a little bit. Okay, now in our EQ, this stuff, all that low end, we don't necessarily need that, so we can open this guy up and change this to a high pass, and then high pass the crap out of it, maybe even like 300-400. It's kind of fine. And then use one of these other bands to maybe just enhance or take away a flavor that you want or that you don't want. That might be fine for now. And again, we can always come back and change that. Let's add some reverb and some delay. Okay, so we're getting closer, and now here is going to be the cool part of it where you're like, okay, this is actually pretty fun. So we need to go into our ARP, and this is kind of what we're looking at. Right now, the pattern speed is 1/16. However, if we change this to 1/128, so we're really making this fast, and then change our octaves from 1 to 2, we're going to get that. It reminds me of some software back in the day. Right, copy and paste, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so that's 2 octaves, right? So it can get a little bit crazier if we go up to 3, especially with our drum groove. So we had that. It really depends on how many octaves you want to go with. And like I was saying before, we can always use this as a sound effect. Now, if you play a chord, for example, you're going to get that. On like a power up or something, maybe. And then you can always change the mode from down if you want to kind of almost envision that type of Mario thing going into the pipe. And it's interesting because it'll change the vibe depending on how many notes that you play, which, yes, duh, obviously. But so here's 1, right? Here's 2, and then here's 3. And then... So depending on how you play it or what chords or notes that you play, it can definitely be kind of interesting. And then we can always play with filtering if we'd like to. So maybe we can put this on the second one, for example, maybe something like that, and then kind of just turn this guy up here and bring it up, and then just put, I guess, filter. If I can spell this right. I can't. Yeah, so kind of darken it up, brighten it up, depending on what you want. Still a little bit too much low end here. I could maybe bring this up a little bit higher. So you can do that, and then you can always further add on to this with all the different effects. So what would be kind of interesting is maybe some bit by stuff. You can step through the different presets of this guy. All right, so there's that. That's kind of interesting. But yeah, so that's essentially kind of a starting point. It already sounds like a pretty cool patch. You can definitely add on to it with all the different effects that you have, modulation. The sky's the limit in Avenger, as I'm sure you well know, but check this one out, try it out, and you might find yourself doing something slightly different, or maybe adding this, or maybe adding something crazy vibrato. Who knows what you're going to add, but the point is, this is a cool way to make a fun patch that kind of sounds like those old time stuff. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you learned something, and we'll see you in the next video.